butterflies went away. The reason we almost cracked under the weight of shame after having sex with our boyfriend or girlfriend is because we spent years placing our identity not in Jesus, but in purity rings and true love weights bracelets. When we were actually making those decisions, nothing fell on our heads in those moments, so we thought we were in the clear. When we pulled a piece out of the tower, everything still held together. When we said just this once and clicked on that link to watch porn. When we went to that party and made out with that person we never saw again. When we fantasized about that girl or made up a whole scenario of life with that guy who wasn't ours to think about in the first place. When we stayed in the relationship even when all our friends and family said not to. When we led that guy or girl on because we wanted to have control or feel wanted, even though we didn't really like them enough to date them. So we kept going. We kept doing it. Until one day, one particular decision became that final piece of Jenga. Right when it was removed, it all fell apart, a pile at our feet. I got married in my early 20s and quickly realized how those decisions and views and thoughts from ages ago were staring me in the face. I was fighting an uphill battle, one that was on a 90-degree cliff. I don't think I'm alone in that feeling. In fact, I'm a decade removed from that season in my life, and sometimes it still feels like yesterday. There are images, hundreds of images, dozens of memories, burned into the front of my brain. And in some ways, I'm still haunted by those pictures and memories and thoughts. Sometimes following Jesus is gritty, blood, sweat, and tears type of stuff. There are moments when an uninvited, shameful memory jumps right in front of my concentration, and it takes everything in me, usually me lying on the floor, gritting my teeth, hands in my head, to remind myself of truth and ask, what does God say about me in this moment? What does he say about himself right now? That 16-year-old Jeff is dead. He was left in the grave, was nailed to the same cross Jesus was the minute I said yes to following him. I'm a new creation. Shame has been defeated. Jesus looks at me with searing, white-hot, ferocious love. I'm his. This is the battleground of a healthy relationship, the mind. It starts there. Our thoughts can define us, and right views of God are the most important things about us because they create the entire trajectory of our lives. Alyssa and I have battled with thoughts that harm our relationship. The way we see it, both of us came into our marriage sick in some way. A disease of sorts had been coursing through our systems for most of our lives, but sometimes it takes a marriage to start seeing the symptoms. It reminds me of a party we had before we moved from Washington to Maui. We didn't know it at the time, but someone was definitely carrying a crazy intense virus. Within 3 days of the party, 11 of the 14 people came down with a stomach bug that involved being wrapped around a toilet for 2 days straight, not knowing what end it was going to come out of next. And if you've been there, you know that might be one of the worst predicaments you can ever face in life. When I was at the party, I didn't feel sick. I didn't feel like I caught anything. I didn't feel infected. In fact, I felt just the opposite. Happy, cheery, hanging out with friends and family. It wasn't until many days later that I actually was sick. Yet, I had caught the virus at the party days earlier. In many ways, that's us with love. We are love-sick and love-diseased. Our views of romance, sexuality, dating, and marriage are killing us. And we've been infected for years and haven't even realized it. It almost killed me in high school and stayed with me in college like shrapnel in my soul that I'm still plucking out and finding healing for. Nothing has caused me more pain, grief, and hurt than previous relationships and my pursuit of love. Isn't that true for most of us? We get to our mid-20s or mid-30s and feel like we should be beginning our adult lives, yet it feels more like the end. We're tired, hurt, we are exhausted, and we don't want to do it anymore. We are left to pick up the pieces of our adolescence, and we now look back with enough perspective to realize just how detrimental our decisions have been. So, how did we get here? Why are so many of us entering adult life, our marriages, jobs, and new families hanging on by a thread rather than starting our journey with vibrancy and life and fullness? Maybe it has something to do with our bad definition of love. Clearly something isn't working. Clearly we've got some wires crossed.